recording now. So
I've just realised. Oh, joke on.
Good evening, gentlemen. How are we?
all good.
Feeling good?
Excellent. We'll
My
continue-
birthday the other day, so can't be complaining.
Was it?
Oh, okay.
I didn't realise.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
on Wednesday.
Well done to you. Had a good time.
Was that the North London Derby day?
I knew that was coming.
No, I don't know. Was that the North London? I didn't believe it was.
Yes,
That
it was.
That wasn't necessary, bro.
No.
It was
No,
not.
no.
It's his
No,
birthday.
you're right.
Well,
No,
you know
Win,
what?
Win, you're
You know
right.
what? No, it
You're
caveats nicely into what we're going to discuss today. And
Win, you're right.
obviously
I apologise. I should not have mentioned that.
we are still discussing relationships and breakups. And today we're going to talk about anger. And we're going to have
And
a little discussion.
relationships and breakups with this guy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, we're going to touch a little bit on anger and that emotion and how we kind of dealt with things and if we actually felt anger at all. It's one of the phases that we go through when we go through a breakup. So, who's going to lead on this topic?
I'm happy to talk first on that one.
Go for it, Nick.
Anger. It's. I don't know whether it didn't feel like it covered the amount of emotion I felt, the anger I felt towards the other person. I'm embarrassed by that now because the only person that hurts is me, etc., the whole 9 yards. And I spoke about this on a podcast before. I'm still growing, I'm still learning, I'm still rebuilding. I hear that the thing is, let go of the anger, let go of this, and let go of the resentment. I haven't seen those scrolls that say I need to do that. I haven't read those. I don't see where that's written, and it doesn't sit with me. Once I find out how to let go of it, then maybe I'll decide to. But for me right now, I've got to be honest with you. I go back to that anger has turned into gratitude. The relationship I have with my son, the relationship I have with you guys, the people that faded away into the background during that breakup, I'm so glad they're gone. And I would imagine they're glad that I'm out of their life as well. So I'm so glad because now I've only got real ones around me. You know, so yeah, massively, hugely angry. There's still a lot of anger there. But I would never want that to be interpreted in the wrong way. I would like to experience that breakup and that relationship as I would, say, for example, a girl on a checkout in Sainsbury's. There's kind of nothing there. That's what I would like. So the fact that I have that anger tells me there's still a lot of emotional baggage there with that person. And I'm okay with that because, again, I know how blessed I am, the relationship I'm in now, the people that I have around me. So that anger, it's still there, but it's now a lot more balanced out with gratitude. And that may sound really contradictory, but that's my experience with it.
Anthony, would you like to, thanks for that, Anthony, would you like to touch base on that?
I think, I think we established a little while ago that people's breakups can be slightly different, and the aftermath can result in slightly different directions. Like with me, yeah, I did experience anger, maybe in a different way, but it was more short-lived. For me, it was more of a relief in the end, almost like a release from something which for me was just going nowhere. It was very kind of toxic. So, and as I reflect on this now, I do feel that in some ways I could have handled it slightly different. I think some of my behaviour afterwards, maybe sort of the traditional male way of doing things. You know, we put our sort of anger into different areas. We probably weren't the nicest people afterwards. We probably had this whole view of maybe women slightly differently, and you treated them slightly differently. And I look back and I do sort of realize it wasn't the right way of doing it, but that was my way of dealing with it. But my anger was slightly different, and I think my anger was more towards circumstances that happened afterwards that we both shared, rather than the actual breakup of the relationship.
Yeah.
Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Very similar to yourself. I felt that there was anger there at circumstances and situations that I found myself in now. Okay, having to find somewhere to live, for instance. Maybe the fact that I couldn't do the general things that I would do with the family. That I was angry at that to a certain degree, and certainly it was angry at myself. So I had to kind of, navigate that energy. And I think what I was trying to do at that particular point in time was channel that into study and getting to know myself a bit better, and looking at some of those looking at the anger and trying to put it somewhere positive. So because there was no way that I was going to be angry towards my ex-partner, because there was, I didn't think that, that's not the way of dealing with these kind of things in terms of, being quite a mature person. I wasn't going to go down that route of trying to be resentful towards them. So I tried to turn that into a kind of more therapeutic kind of way of dealing with things. So I had more conversations, speaking with people, speaking with her as well, and trying to figure things out. So I think with me, with regards to that anger, I kind of looked at myself and worked on myself, and also worked on projects and put my mind into other things so that I didn't have to experience any further negativity, and tried to turn it into something positive. So yeah, I put it into work, and I kind of made me become more driven. Yeah, so that's what I kind of did with the anger, and it is going to be there for the majority of people. I think stats are there. It's a part of the rebuilding process. I'm not really an angry kind of person anyway. So yeah, it's not something that I kind of feel on a regular basis. So yeah, I try to turn things into positive, glass half full. Mike, what would you say with regards to that situation? Did you feel angry at all? Any
Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt. I think I had two phases of anger, to be honest. Anger at the scenario, the situation, and circumstances of the breakup. Certainly, for sure. I was in that phase for quite a long time, if I'm being completely honest, and that's where the work and the therapy and the support and counseling and all that kind of stuff and talking to like-minded people comes in. But I was particularly angry but then I kind of morphed from that, or pivoted away from that, and transitioned to being angry at myself, really, that I'd lost my way. Really, I'd kind of invested all my time, energy, and thoughts into that particular scenario, and that was a real lesson for me. When you're in a partnership or a union or a relationship, you can't lose sight of who you are as an individual as well. Because when I came out of that union and that relationship, I didn't know who the hell I was.
Yeah,
I really didn't. I didn't know who I was. I'd lost all my friendship groups. Some of the interests that I had, which I'm passionate about, I'd lost all of that. So I had to kind of start more or less from ground zero and find out who the hell I was. And that was really, really scary, And, if we fast forward to the present day, now that I'm in that rebuilding phase, if you like, that's something that's a non-negotiable for me, regardless of whether I get into a relationship in the future. I'm not going to lose sight of who I am as an individual, because that's what makes me. Do you know what I mean? And and I'm not being negative and things like that, but we've got to be alive to the fact that not all relationships last the course.
No,
and we've got to be, and that's not being negative. Do you know what I mean? We're just a hard dose of reality that not every relationship lasts the course, and we have to still continue to invest in ourselves and build ourselves alongside being in that union as well.
See, and can I just want to say one thing, and I know it's going because we're doing this in some sort of order, and I get it, but forgive me. Based off of what you just said, Mike, and what you said a minute ago, Wim, with you was able to talk to people, including your ex-partner. That's helped, and I know that by nature you don't really hold resentment and anger and stuff like that. But in a situation like that, I just think you've had that opportunity to have that communication. That's massively different when you're told no, done, and so the communication. And I'm not talking about communication to get back with that individual. That's not what it's about. But just can we have dialogue here? To we've gone through a lot. We've had a child together, etc., etc. Can we just communicate? You know, we've still got our son. Can we talk about these things? And just to be told no, done. And I'm just, for me, it's kind of like, yeah, that's okay. That's totally natural for me to be angry about, and for me it was the appropriate thing to do. Now, what I did with that anger, I'm so proud of, because I didn't go out there and hurt anyone. I didn't go out there and kind of start throwing things and name calling and all of that kind of stuff out there. I didn't do all of that. So I'm proud of myself. Anthony, you asked me before, is there anything I'm proud out of this? So, and off the back of you, Mike, that scary element of this is really ground zero here. Because all around me right now is rubble. I didn't see that there was any light at all. And hence why my partner's just come back from work. And she knows, because me and her, our communication is second to none, as I've said to you. She knows that there's massive walls up for me, you know, but I'm trying to take those brick by brick, because without her, Bleep knows where I would be. So the rebuild, she's got a massive part of that, because it wasn't just like a gentle, like, come on, you can do this. Sometimes it was like, get off your ass, we're going. And I needed that, and she knew that. You know, so there's a lot of respect there. So it's strange, isn't it? So I'm so glad that we're not sitting here, which people could sit here and just women. No, that's not what this is about.
No.
That's a BS system. I've got one here who I'm so effing fortunate. I've won the lottery. I'm punching well above my weight. You know,
I know that.
You don't have to. I knew you was going to agree. I walked straight into that. That's a typical Arsenal supporter, isn't it?
We think you hacked the system, to be honest.
You think what? I've hacked the system.
You hacked the system.
Yeah. And the thing is, I'm hung like a church mouse, so I don't know how I've done it.
Oh, I leave it out. Not literally.
You know what, Nick? I started calling you Mr. The Fruit Man, because for a joke what we've already said.
Easy.
I think that I understand what you're talking about, because I'm in the same situation. I wouldn't be where I wouldn't have got where I am today if it wasn't for that person. And I was able to do things, extraordinary things, have positions in places which I look back and I think, I did that. Wow. I didn't think I was capable. I'm completely a different part of the spectrum from when I was back then. And I think it's like what you were saying, it's understanding yourself, who you really are. And going back to what you said, Michael, and I really, if you were there, man, I would have given you the biggest handshake and whatever, even though we support different teams and I can't stand you. At that point, that would have gone out the window, because that's how I felt. I realised I had a lot of interest. There was a lot of things that I was doing before, and things I wanted to do. And it's not until I came out of that I realised, wow, I want to get back to doing music. I was a musician. I was doing sports. I was doing biz. I realised I had interests. I'm a designer. I wasn't a designer then, but I really wanted to get into design. Now I've designed in so many different places. I've done things like Tower Bridge. I've done this or whatever. I've been able to do my interests or pursue my interests because I now found out who I really was. I started to learn more about. But that also happens because I had people around me, like, certain friends but I was looking to them thinking, well, if they can do it, why can't I?
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question? Can I ask a question on that, Anthony? Would you say that was rechanneling your anger into a different direction?
Absolutely so.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It was like what you said. I put my energy. I'm very much like that. I'm very when I'm one of those guys where I like a puzzle, I like a challenge. If you say I can't do it, I will do it. I'll prove that I can do it. I've always been like that. That's why I've never had these barriers about racials or differences. I've always looked at it. I can do it. I have a brain exactly like you, and I can do exactly what you're doing. And if I push myself even more, I can do it better, right? But not everybody has that, right?
That's true.
And
Absolutely.
That's true.
this is the thing.
That's true.
Not everybody.
That's true.
Really, you've got such a. I wouldn't say
Yeah.
talent, but you've got a way. What Nick said, you can just go. That's it. I'm done. Not everybody can do that.
No.
No.
No,
I
no,
can't.
no.
No.
And
no,
I must
no.
say, I once I get to that point where I've accepted everything, then it's fine. I can move on very quickly. But what about if you can't? What do you do? What can you guys suggest that if someone is harboring like angry feelings and they really want to hurt somebody, is that just about personality, or is that just the whole circumstances giving you no option to go in another direction? You're so bogged down with everything that you just want to attack anything and anyone.
Do you mind if I take that one first, Mike? Is that okay?
Yeah, please, please.
So for me, Win, you're right. It is a personality thing, but I tell you the one trait that I've had from flipping out, 11, 12 years old, is trying. Don't always succeed. Trying to be genuine, trying to be authentic, trying to be real, trying to be this one. So when there was anger, I already knew in my soul, I knew viscerally, I knew in a real genuine way, I'm not going to do anything, I'm not going to do anything off key with this to any other individual. So what I ended up doing was turning it inwards, and I became angry at self. So as we said, Anthony, when we were speaking before, my bit was, I'm not worth this, I'm not worth that, I'm just this, I'm just that, all of this bad stuff that's happening. And then there did come a point where genuine people that are still around me were saying, you're either genuine fully or you're not. Now, I need to explain that really quickly. So I can sit here and say, I'm this person. I would never go out and do anything violent. I would never go out and smash things up and da-da-da. Because that's not who I am. Okay, that's me being real. Now, equally, if I sit here and I say, I ain't worth nothing, I deserve all I get, da-da-da. Well, how genuinely real is that? And that wasn't real. So I had to really look at myself and say, actually, all of this inner voice that I'm giving myself here now, I have to really check that and check the honesty of that. And it doesn't mean that I was bigging myself up as if I was someone that I'm not, but I was open to say, well, look, yeah, you do fail here, but actually you succeed here. And that was a big part of the rebuild for me, was that going into that genuine. So for me, Win, the answer to your question is be genuine, but in the round, not just, okay, I'm this bad, I'm that bad, I'm that bad. No, that's not real. You're not being real with that. Give yourself an effing break, because you're a human being that's trying. Well, give yourself a pat on the back for that, at least.
Yes. And it's admirable to, be able to kind of like think to yourself, okay, this is a difficult situation, and I need to, focus on myself and also give myself a big up, so to speak, because, it's tough. It is really tough for men to go through these difficult situations and dealing with our emotions. And when it comes to anger, it's something that a lot of guys do, express that, because we're not so much in touch with our feelings.
I mean, for me, I for me, it was about redirection. Because for a period of time, I kept focusing about the scenario and what happened and what's happening now and all that kind of stuff. And it took me a time with work to kind of think that wasn't really the best way to kind of do about it, to go about it, I should say. So for me, even now, I redirect that into me. Yeah. So it's about me having a relationship with myself first and foremost, getting to know myself, what makes me tick, what are my interests, what do I want to do. That whole kind of reinvention. I mean, that personal development, working on me, because if and when the time comes, I need to be it's no point me going into another relationship if I don't know who the hell I am.
Let me
Do you
just
know what
ask
I
you a
mean?
question
So,
because you raised a good point there. Focusing on yourself, did that stop you from obsessing about the situation?
correct.
Which could have
100%.
leaned more into the anger side of things. Okay.
100%. I redirected that into me. Learning new skills, personal development, looking into different things, entrepreneurial stuff, focusing, building me, reigniting old passions and interests. Do you know what I mean? And stuff like that. And that's what I continue to do now because I've got the time to do it. And if and when the time comes that somebody, some female gets the lucky ticket and gets me, because he wouldn't want to get me. They get me. I'm ready. And
The lucky
sorry, is that
ticket.
a
I
problem?
love that, Mike.
Is there a problem
Well,
here? Or?
I don't think anyone's going to get you with the invisible man on the on your label.
Well, absolutely there.
You can't be seen.
That's true. But I can hold up them. But at least I know that if and when that time comes, I've done the work.
Yeah.
And I'm ready. Do you know what I mean? Because I don't believe it's fair on anybody if I've got unfinished business or certain things that are unresolved that are hanging around in the background. That's not a good start to a prospective new relationship.
You're absolutely sorry, Win. Sorry, if you don't mind.
No.
You're absolutely right, Mike. Because that takes really quickly. It takes me on to Anthony. We've spoken about this before, which is there's a concept called transference. So when I was in one relationship, now when I get into another relationship, my new partner isn't reacting the same way to my ex-partner, I'm like, what the hell's going on? They're acting off key. They're being this. They're being that. They're being that. No, they're not. Yeah. They're being genuine and they're being themselves.
Yeah.
What I'm doing is I'm bringing that past baggage into this one.
Correct.
So you're absolutely right, Mike. Transference is a huge thing that we can't take that nonsense in there, and it's difficult. But again, that takes work. Sorry, Win, to interrupt.
It takes work.
No. It's a good point to kind of lean into that because it's another really important part because you don't want to bring those negative things into your new relationship. So it is good to kind of address what has gone wrong in your previous relationship and understand it so that you don't bring that into your next relationship. And the studies say that if you don't, you generally will bring that baggage along with you into your next relationship.
100%.
You do.
Yeah.
You start. It's almost like you're putting the other person on trial almost every day because you're waiting for things to happen. But these are problems that you had in your past. It doesn't mean that person is sharing those problems. But the problem is, going back to what you're saying, Nick, and maybe this is my opinion as well. By bringing your problems into a new relationship, then you might create those same problems again because you brought them in. Yeah. And there are things that maybe they weren't going to bring in, but all of a sudden, you're almost training them to be that because you're constantly saying the same things. And all of a sudden, they go, oh, forget, why am I bothering with this? And all of a sudden, that's it. It's happening. So I think this goes back to maybe what you were saying, Michael, about understanding yourself first before you commit yourself into another relationship. Because if you don't know yourself first, what you're doing is just by bringing something in which you haven't resolved, and it's not fair to that person, right? Because why should they take on the emotional baggage that you had in the past? They've maybe never experienced it, and now you're bringing it to them. It's not that they're not sympathetic, but then you're asking them to be something which may be impossible. Everybody is going to make mistakes. They're going to say the wrong thing. They're going to do something. They're going to rub you all up. That's why we're humans. We're all individuals, right?
Yeah.
But it's not fair to put another individual on trial. And I think, lastly, before I die out of this, I'm hearing so many people that are single, right? Who are saying, I can't find a good man. I can't find a good woman, right? But a lot more studies are coming. It's because the expectations of these individuals, we're putting them. They're so high that as soon as you see something, that's it. I don't want to be. You don't even give them a chance. You don't even
It's true.
give them an opportunity to show you what they are, right? And there's
Particularly if it's a red flag you've seen before in a previous relationship, potentially.
yes, yeah,
Yeah.
You could actually throw somebody away just on a minor technicality. But if you were to look in hindsight, that person probably might have been the best person you could have ever had in your life.
Yeah.
But you didn't give them a chance to prove it or show themselves.
But that's true, Anthony. But that's generally because the person hadn't dealt with their own baggage. If they had looked at themselves and dealt with their own baggage, they would appreciate the new person and allowed them to be themselves. But because you are still in your emotions in another relationship, or still in that relationship, even because some people are in denial that it's actually over. They still think it's possible to get that relationship back. But
Yeah.
I would side on caution with regards to that, and I would go into rebuilding oneself and asking one's questions about what went wrong. So, do you think at that point, do you think it's wise to get counselling then? Do we need third parties involved in your rebuild?
I think it depends on the individual, because some people, it just needs a complete different environment for them to realize they can be something different. I'm not saying that they don't need it, but I'm just saying, I could be thrown in. Like I said, you might be living in a house for such a long time, and you end up getting a place of your own, and all of a sudden you start to reflect a little bit on more yourself, and you can almost build your life up. But then some people, it's been such a toxic, explosive situation, they do need that help. So I think it depends on the individual and how the breakup actually happened.
I agree. Some people might just need what we're having here now. Some like-minded individuals that they feel safe with, that they can exchange some opinions and ideas and bounce things off. That might work, but as you say, Anthony, it depends on the complexities of what we're talking about, to be honest, because some situations are really, really traumatic. But certainly, I think communicate. I think whatever you do, I think it should be. This is my humble opinion. Should be underpinned by communication. I think. Do you know what I mean? I think, well, at least I think that for me, I think when you internalize things and you don't talk and you don't share, and admittedly so, you're not going to share with anybody, but you might want to share with friends, or it might be somebody a bit more professional. But I would certainly advise, for some level of communication to kind of, unpack and address issues that could potentially lead to bigger things down the road, whether that's in a new relationship or just with you in your everyday walk of life, I would say.
Okay.
Nick, anything to add?
Yeah, it's kind of, I know, Mike, we've had this conversation before, but it kind of alludes to something you said at the very end of what you just said there to do with communication. Now, for me, I hear this, one of the things that I've learned, and you guys can welcome to disagree with this, but one thing I've learned is I used to listen to that old quote about communication is key. I now realize how many words are missing from that quote. That quote is so empty. Communication is key if you're genuinely trying to understand each other's communication. Somebody physically harming somebody else is a form of communication. So communication is key is such an empty vessel. Okay, so when me and Winston talk, when me and Anthony talk, when me and Mike talk, I'm trying to genuinely understand Mike's perspective. Genuinely, to the point that I will give it back to Mike until he says, that's it. That's exactly what I mean. That's communication. That communication is key. But understanding each other's communication is what's key for me. Not just communication. Because I could sit here now and talk to you about how... Well, I'm ready to be cursed if I say anything down that line. if I could see
What was
here,
that, Man United?
moving on.
Why?
If
Why
I,
did you do that?
this is Mike.
No, I
Field.
apologise.
Right. So can I just
apologise.
say, has he not just proved my point that communication isn't key by itself?
No, but there's some people you just don't want to communicate with, though. Nick.
No, I
You
apologise.
understand?
I've apologised.
Yeah, I know how
And also,
sincere that is.
and the communication and actually acknowledging what that person said, because he's apologised 4 times literally, and he's still repeating the same thing over and over. So there's no real communication. He's not learned from it.
Do you see what? So Anthony,
doing the same pattern.
Do you hear what I'm saying, Anthony? He's just proved my point. I'm
Absolutely.
glad that he's done it. So communication by itself isn't key. Genuinely trying to understand each other's communication is key. Arsenal fan. But anyway,
Exactly.
yeah, we move on.
We move on.
Well, I think how long have we done now? Because I think time wise,
We've literally got about a minute left, and then I
minute left.
need to eat some bean before.
Okay.
trouble.
I'm trying to think of let's glass half full stuff now.
Yeah.
Okay.
What do we leave people with being motivated? What's motivating us to, continuing getting back into other relationships?
There's the guy that I follow, his theory said to he kind of put this thing out there saying, you are good enough. Not perfect, because perfect just isn't good enough. And that for me is golden. And the reason for that is because all 4 of us sitting here have imperfections. We are imperfect. We are flawed. Because of that, we can relate to each other. If somebody's perfect, they can't relate to us. So being perfect just isn't good enough. And for me, that's what I had to learn for myself. Yes, I'm flawed and I'm good enough because I'm trying. I mean, yeah, I was waiting for Michael to go, you're very effing trying. But
No.
I'm trying. So that's what I'm going to leave with.
There's a T-shirt
going there.
I was going to sign. I'm perfectly imperfect.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Go on, Mike.
No, for me, listen to you guys. I think it's beautiful for for people to potentially be in relationships because that's I love that. But I think just as human beings, male, female, whatever, let's not lose sight of who we are as individuals.
Nice.
Who we are, your passions, your interests, where you want to be in your life. Do you know what I mean? Build that as well, because sometimes when we get into this coupled up thing, and I get it, and it's beautiful, but just don't lose sight of who you are, because we just don't know where we're going to be in life in 10, 15 years time. Do you know what I mean? And not only that, I think it's actually beautiful in the relationship that you've both got individual interests, and because when that person's there, that person, and when that comes together, and when you can marry all that together, how fantastic was that?
Absolutely. Love that, Mike. Yeah.
Even those old relationships, I can still find things in them that I really enjoyed, and I owe it to myself to be a better version of myself, or to have learnt those lessons from those people that I've been in a relationship with, and go on my journey, because I love life, and I'm not going to allow any relationship to stop me from loving life and enjoying the pleasures that it brings. I imagine if I was stuck in a dark place now and I'm not able to laugh and joke with you guys, like, I really appreciate that as well as everything else in life. So that gives me a lot of hope and a lot of joy, and I'm really grateful that I can share this with you guys and have these experiences, and not just all focus and obsess on just one thing, like a specific relationship. It's genuinely, it's not that goddamn important, is it really? When you embraced the breakup and you move on, you find, I think probably 90% of people find other relationships and just move on and just get on. There's lessons to be learned, and that's the way that I see it. I just learned another lesson. I don't want to make the same mistake, but I suppose once bitten, twice shy, to a certain degree. So some of the things that I've made a mistake on, or some of the lessons that I've learned throughout those relationships, I'm not going to fall for them again. I'm going to be a bit wiser and a bit smarter the next time around. So yeah, that's my final thoughts.
Guys, I think that's
Thank
a
you
good
very
place
much.
to. I think that's a good place to leave this one. So we've got one more to do on this. Yeah. Thank you. I don't feel as nervous now either. It's good because a lot of these podcasts, when they're talking about relationships and stuff, they end up basically coating off their ex and blah blah blah. And women ain't, men ain't. None of that nonsense. Leave that to them.
You know,
That's
Nick,
right.
we wouldn't be. Nick, you've got to look at this. Last thing I'm going to say is, look, you know, we've been through things that were obviously traumatic. I went through a bad one, whatever. But I wouldn't be where I am today without that. So I'm saying thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you for that, because I'm here.
there's a lesson in it.
About this.
It is.
I'm with you guys. I would not have been with you guys now. I'd still be there. I'd still been something which I would be almost like, you know, dreading. So I'm so happy
There's growth.
that happened.
That's
So I'm
good
gonna
to
say,
hear.
Absolutely.
That's
I'm
good to
with
hear.
faith like you, Winnie. I'm so
Absolutely.
blessed in that.
Yeah.
Move on.
Absolutely.
Well, peace and
Well,
love.
I
beautiful
feel, let me
people.
just
I'm
say
gonna
that
go.
we don't look as miserable as we did last week
Right.
at the end of this one.
Right? No, it's
I
good.
think it's because we've got to the phase where we've kind of moved on now. That's why we're
Can I ask
smiling
you,
a bit more.
who was I here last week?
Yeah, of course it was.
Yeah. You're every week.
No,
What do you mean?
No.
Was you here last week?
Well, I'm
you
just
was,
saying,
you was,
'cause-
you was wearing a different colour shirt, don't you remember?
no, it's just not that. It's just that, you know, I'm talking about maybe, you know, sometimes the input that I bring, so, it's challenging a new kind of energy.
Oh, really?
What do you mean?
Okay.
I do what I mean.
Yeah.
No, it's just that. I am sorry. Lastly, going back to this person that I sit, you know, a very good colleague of mine here. The energy that this person brings to the group is a very kind of a red goonery influence, which brings negativity. And I think right now it's been balanced nicely, and I think we'll just leave it like that.
Unfortunately, that's unavoidable.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately. That's what Goon is doing. They just bring negative energy.
No, they don't.
Standard procedure.
We've just been gorging ourselves on success,
All the trophies.
trophies, prestige, you name it. We've done it, really.
Yeah, I'd love to.
We'll do it again. We'll do it again this season as well. But that's another pod.
That's another pod. Listen, guys, I'm going to eat. I'm going to go and eat bean with this. I'm going to go and eat bean with this beautiful partner of mine. So,
Oh, fantastic.
peace and love, guys. See you soon.
Peace and love.
See you later.
Bye.
See you
Love
later,
you.
guys.
Bless.